Chris, here we have a photo of you in 1991 Desert Storm, and then we fast forward 2003. You're part of the early invasion of Iraq. Tell us about this this weapon you're holding here.
Pretty nice, huh? That's what
Yeah,
we
it's
all
nice.
got issued. That's what. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
That
that's
was
a nice
actually
weapon.
supposedly one of Saddam Hussein's sons' AR, gold-plated. Pretty high speed. We found a couple of those. Found a bunch of bayonets, gold-plated bayonets.
Yeah.
Pretty nice stuff.
Now,
Man.
were you wondering about how you could mail that home, or
Yeah, that thought never crossed my mind.
no? It would have crossed mine for
No,
sure.
I'm just kidding.
Oh.
But yeah, those things were quickly tagged and bagged, so we had no access to them. But I'm
Yeah.
sure they are hanging up at some retired lieutenant colonel or general's house.
It would go for a lot on eBay. I can
Yeah.
tell you that right now. Yeah. So what? You took the photo and then had to hand it over to
Yep.
someone else. Who's the guy behind you? It looks pretty casual there. Do you have any idea? who
Yes,
that
so
was?
he was a correspondent, actually. I just can't remember
Oh, okay.
who
So
he was
journalist.
with. Yes. And of course, this is after the war
Yeah.
is over and all that type of stuff. And this is still the grounds in Babylon.
Yeah. I'm just struck by how casually he's dressed, and
Mhm.
I mean.
But of
it-
course, that's a compound. We got
So,
security all the
okay,
way
so
around.
it's
So yeah,
secure,
yeah,
okay.
you know,
Okay.
it's kind of like the the mash
Right.
you know,
Okay. I got you.
attitude going on.
I got you.
Um,
So we had this photo here of the Gulf. Not. You went into the Corps in what year?
so I went in the Marine Corps in 1983.
So 83. So about what, about
I was
eight,
19 when
eight
I
or
went
nine,
in. Yeah.
8 or 9 years into it. Here you're less than a year from finishing 20 years, and then just one of your photos. And I look at that photo and it's hard. You can only really make out the one face, and I look at that and I just wonder. These folks are smiling at us in 2003. Where is it going to be in 2005 and in 2006? But really, I think that the theme that we could end these discussions with is this general one of looking back. I mean, if somebody says, what's the main thing you learned, or what's the main benefit you gained out of 20 years in the Corps? Most of us, including myself, in the Navy, we just do one stint, maybe two stints. It's a pretty small percentage that sticks around for a full career. So what's when you look back on those 20 years, what stands out to you as kind of the big thing? I mean, obviously it's 20 years of experiences. I mean, let's just mention some of the other duty stations. You were security at the U.S. Embassy in London.
Security, yeah, not at the embassy, but yeah,
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
but you're part of the
security element.
diplomatic corps
Yeah.
there in London. You were based for a few months in Adak, Alaska,
Mhm.
right out on the
Yeah.
Aleutian chain. How many 6-month cruises did you do with the Navy?
Well, with the Marines on Navy ships.
You're right, with
yeah.
the Marines on Navy ships. Yeah.
Did 4 Westpacks and 2 flyovers to Okinawa.
Yeah, so that's a lot.
And those are all 6+ months.
Right, a lot of traveling around Asia, the
Mhm.
Philippines, Singapore, Hong Kong,
48
Thailand.
countries
48 countries
is
altogether.
what I've
with,
seen in 20 years. Yeah.
with the Corps, or all with the Corps? Or?
Yeah, with the Corps. I just did actually outside the Corps. I just did my 49th going to Iceland.
Going to Iceland, so
yeah.
48 countries with the Corps. So, I mean, in a way, it's an unfair question, but when you think about the 20 years, or let's imagine it this way. You've got 2 minutes to speak to a group of young people thinking about joining the Corps, and so here's your pitch based on 20 years of experience in the Corps.
Mhm.
What do you say?
So I say what I say to the kids in my hometown when they want to talk about enlisting. It's not for everybody, but it's a lifestyle that's unique to an individual. And am I going to get something out of it? Yes. It may not be what I want, but I'm going to get experiences that I'm going to be able to use, good or bad, um, for the rest of my life. For me in particular, I think 90% of the stuff that I got out of the Marine Corps over a 20-year period has benefited me after I got out.
Like, for example, in terms of discipline?
Discipline, just health-wise, taking care of yourself, confidence in who you are, your self-esteem, character. I mean, there's just a lot of different things. On the tangible side, being able to travel and see the world, that's one of the reasons why I didn't go into the Marine Corps to go into combat. When I went in '83, it seemed like the world was doing pretty good, but of course, as soon as I got to boot camp, barracks in Beirut got bombed, and so I kind of had an idea of where I was going to be going. But my experiences that I grasped from Desert Storm, Iraqi Freedom, though, was a sense of hope. There is hope out there. We look back again, we can see that there's not a lot of progress, but there was a sense of hope that I've accomplished. My life on this world had meaning, you know what I mean? Being able to save lives,
Sure.
That type of stuff.
Well, I mean, the Iraq situation is complicated, but, Kuwait was liberated.
Mm-hmm.
And when Iraq's forces went into Kuwait, I mean, there were atrocities.
Mm-hmm.
So playing a role in liberating Kuwait, that's something.
Yeah.
And people sometimes, dismiss the idea of, the preservation of oil supplies, as being a cause of war. And that's a certain conversation, but as a matter of fact, the world economy needs oil.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to have oil, and so liberating those oil fields from Saddam Hussein also was important to the world economy. And so, I mean, that's, putting Iraq itself aside, the liberation of Kuwait was something that I think, people can be genuinely proud of. I mean, because there were real atrocities committed when Hussein's forces were there.
Yeah, and again, some of the Iraqi people that I got to intermingle with and build a relationship with, I still think about a lot of those guys. Saddam Hussein's tailor, the guy that cut my hair when we were over there, Abbott and his son. I think about these guys and just kind of wonder where they're at in life. But getting back to, looking at my 20 years, and it's hard. It's hard on family life. I don't care how cushy of a career you have in the military, whether you're the junior man or the senior man. It's hard on your family. It's hard on your wife. It's hard on your kids. It's hard on you with the family, So it's a commitment of great risk, for you as an individual. What's this going to do for me? My personal thought process, I think the majority of our youth could probably stand a 2-year, 4-year hitch in the military before they go off to college, but that's Chris.
No, I mean, that certainly was right for me. Had I tried to go right to college from high school, well, in fact, even, the very first class I took in the Navy, I got an F. I had no idea how to study, had no discipline. Right. And 4 years of the Navy and the discipline that came along with that, that made all the difference when I actually got to college. Yeah, so I think you're right about that. Yeah. So on the whole, for all the challenges, you're glad you did your 20 years.
Oh yes, most definitely. And I've caught myself saying it before, and I'm sure I'd say it again. I'd do it again.
Yeah.
I think it's for Chris. It was there'd be some changes I'd make, but on a personal level.
Yeah.
But I would do it again. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Thanks a lot for these discussions about your time in the service.
Thanks for letting me do that.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks.